Hello there, thanks for coming back, and as usual, let's do another roundup of the latest and greatest MEA patch 1.08. And starting again with single player got its normal slew of bug fixes, nothing too extraordinary or world-shattering here. I mean, they're bug fixes, so they're necessary, they're just not exciting. But some really interesting things happened. So, first of all, and it's kind of a bug fix, I guess, since it worked terribly before, but they revamped the beam emitter augmentation on guns. So, instead of turning it into a silly putty shooter, it now actually shoots a beam that has relatively close DPS to what it was before. I've heard some people say it was better, some people say it was worse on some weapons, but now you can have beam weapons that aren't the crystal pew-pew guns of the Remnant. So there you go. There's that. They also added a couple more augmentations, most notably the auto burst and single shot fire augmentations, so those are kind of cool. Again, not anything make or break, just kind of cool little things, so now you can make more fun Frankenstein guns. Just remember, mod responsibly. Not all gun and augmentation combos were created equally, and some combinations will just straight up break your guns, so, you know, be careful. If it doesn't make sense in your mind, then it probably won't make sense in the game. And if it makes sense in your mind, it may not make sense in the game, so be careful. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the basically two huge additions to the single player side. So first, the biggest one probably for everyone is you can customize your appearance outside of character creation. Oh, such a big deal. Something I had been so much waiting for. I eventually just gave up on character creation completely and settled for some guy who kind of looked like Livin' La Vida Loca, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but that's okay. And it was really ruining single player for me because I couldn't get attached to the character or what the character is doing. But now that's all changed. You can change your face and as many times as you want. So about this now. So you'll go whenever you go into the Tempest next, whenever you load up your single player game, you will get an email and possibly be bothered by Sam about that new email. But you'll get a new email from the doc that says you can essentially now change your face in the med bay. So go ahead and head down to the med bay, and it is on the left, right next to the respect. The respect area. It's pretty easy. Not too hard to find, even though I got stuck for 5 seconds, which was dumb of me. But that's fine. Nothing out of the ordinary. So you go over there, and it's free to use. You can do it as many times as you want, which is great because I've done it probably 10 or 15 times trying to make little tweaks and get myself looking good. So you can go and add battle scar to your rider after you come out of get some history through fights or whatever, or if you've been out in space for an extraordinary amount of time, or what feels like an extraordinary amount of time because of how the story and some of the characters are. You can gray your hair a little bit, and maybe you just want to completely change what you look like, and that's fine too, and you can do that. So, woo. That's so very, very much woo. Very yay. Such yay. And actually inside of the character creator, they've got a new preset, which is the absolutely most generically generic ginger in the world. So that's good. I mean, it's generic, but I know people are going to get some use out of that, so that's cool. More importantly, they gave us the option to change our complexion across all the presets, and that makes such a huge difference. You were locked in basically before, in case you didn't know, and just to make this clear what this means. What this means is, before we were locked into whatever complexion, whatever race essentially, the preset was before. So if you liked the big lips or the nose size of one of the black dudes, but you're an Asian dude, it wouldn't matter. If you liked the sultry chin and jawline of the Mexican dude, but you were a white guy, then there was nothing you could do about it. And now that's all changed, and it's really, really noticeable. You can swap between all the complexions freely. There's 10 complexions, one for each preset, so it adds a ton of different things you can see. God, what is it called? Different variety. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Oh gosh, I'm awful. You can see a lot of variety. You can get rid of the pockmarks if you don't like the freckles. You can get rid of all that stuff, and it's a really big deal. Slightly less, but also still adding a pretty decent amount of variety. They unlocked the hairstyles for both sexes, so we get a huge jump in that category as well. I won't lie to you, some of the combinations look a little goofy, specifically on the guys. A lot of the female haircuts are ponytails, so it's not like the samurai ponytails, it's like the sporty. I was confused, I didn't know what I was doing, but my hair is too long to not use a ponytail. They kind of look weird, but there are some good ones too, and you can make a 80s glam rocker now, or G.I. Jane on the girl's side if you want. It's all good, and actually, on my character also I'm using a female cut, and I don't know if BioWare is trying to tell me that I have a super girly haircut, but you know, there's that, and it does look pretty similar to me, so I'm happy. Outside of that, and this will affect slightly less people, but I'm still glad for the people who it does affect. For those of you who fell in love with our squiddy squad mate Jal, but had the issue of him not really taking notice of you because you had the dongly kind of equipment between your legs, the gay Jal romance has been added. And so I know this was a pretty big issue for the gay community, for the people playing MEA, because, I mean, besides them not having any gay squad mate to kind of get with, the quantity and quality of the gay romances in the game are not that great as is. I mean, I personally like Gil, that's it. I like Gil, but I mean, not as a gay guy. I just generally like Gil because he's kind of cool. But there just weren't that many relationships in the game. That was kind of a bummer. And, I mean, let's be honest, even if you're a straight male, I know I became slightly gay after I saw Jal. So, it's good that that's finally in there, and it's good that we can romance Jal on either sex now, because Jal should get all the action from everybody all the time. So, next, let's move on to multiplayer. Next, on multiplayer, as per usual, multiplayer saw a ton of changes. There's some pretty significant things, bug smashing, some usability changes, balance changes. So first, let's cover some of the smaller honorable mention changes. When you go to the lobby, right away you'll probably notice there have been a couple changes. If you look at the host card, then you can see the ping from the host to you, and I mean, there are a lot of other variables you need to pay attention to. If there's 5 bars, it doesn't instantly mean, oh, there's no lag, but it's at least a decent indicator. So that's kind of nice. They also made the ready up and the waiting indicator at the bottom of the screen a little bit more obvious, and you can also see people's characters' level, the rank of their cards. So, I mean, again, not strictly necessary. If you saw somebody with a really low Apex rating with an ultra rare, then the chances of it being anything higher than rank 1 was relatively low. But now you can see specifically, so that's kind of cool. Customization in multiplayer also got a tiny boost in that you can change the color of your lights on your suit. So, most of the colors weren't so bad, but I know, I mean, there were some pinks and oranges that kind of looked out of place if you tried to go the N7 route of red and black, so it's nice to be able to change those. It was a small thing, but it was a good thing. I'm enjoying the extra customization. So this is kind of in between the big and small stuff. Krogan's got a buff. I want to say a buff. It's something that should have been there from the start. So I want to say it was fixed. Krogan's got fixed in that their Krogan Rage now that gives the most important benefit, the 100% health regen limit boost, as of the first tier, so you don't have to go and invest in all 6 ranks of that finally, which is a huge deal. Also, additionally, Rage is granted from nearby kills rather than just melee kills, with kills within 10 meters or 15 meters if you grab a trait. So what does this mean? It means that not only do you not have this mandatory 6-point investment for all Krogans, so that you're not just this squishy ball of scales and anger, but that keeping the rage is significantly easier, especially for any of the characters that don't rely on melee, like the Krogan Engineer and the Mercenary. So this was a pretty awesome change for the Krogan characters and any future Krogans, I imagine. Beyond that, some guns got changed, including the Sandstorm. They're a little bit better. Carnifex, Sandstorm, some of the S weapons. The Carnifex I already was kind of liking, so now it's just a little bit better, a little bit easier to use. More noticeable change was the Zulkin, the Ket's... it's hard to describe it. The Ket's semi-auto AR that had the really terabad slow shooting semi-auto with the wonky charge. It's been changed to just a straightforward outright burst rifle. It's kind of like a cheaper Valkyrie, and also it has the bullet sound effect, so that's kind of feels a little bit weird. It feels weird now. So I hope maybe they figure out something a little to differentiate it a little bit, so that it's not just a straight downgrade from the Valkyrie, but it's a good weapon now, so it's worth using. It's worth taking a look at. So, you know, grab that. I don't like the look of Ket weapons. They kind of look like giant dildos a lot of the time. But now it is a usable dildo. So there's that. And one more last thing. And this one is, save this to the last of the honorable mention because this is kind of significant. Everything hurts us more now. They've pretty much globally increased everything's damage from as little as 5% to 10%. I mean, it sounds like it's a little bit small, but things were already pretty dangerous, so, you know, be careful, use cover it up. Assemblers also got a bigger boost, and they are pretty serious business now, so it's something to keep track of. And yeah, so, you know, stay safe. Everything hurts more than before. So, last thing, some changes to shield gating was made. So on one side, characters with explosives no longer are affected by the shield gate. They completely ignore them. So your grenades or your trip mines, if it does all shield damage and all health damage, it just kills outright now. And that is awesome. Such a huge deal. You don't have to use 2 charges now to kill things. On the opposite side of that, characters who are using sniper rifles or things that don't bypass the shield gate are going to suffer significantly more now because they increased the shield gate's value across all difficulties. And just so you understand what the shield gate is, so after you break some enemy's shield, there's a span of time where if you do more damage, it is just absorbed up to a certain threshold, and if you can deal more than that threshold, then it deals the remainder of that to health. For snipers, this is a big deal because if you hit that weak spot and a lot of your damage is gated, you can no longer one-shot enemies. And specifically on gold enemies got an enormous jump in their gate health, which they got over 1,000 points. So for snipers, my heart goes out to you. The situation has been totally reversed, and now you're going to have a hard time with it. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. On to the bigger things. A topic I have always been kind of sensitive and periodically salty about, melee. So a lot of people complained about it. To do melee effectively, you basically needed the Juggernaut equipment, and that was a 10% boost to shields, and I believe the 70% boost to melee, 70-75. A huge boost to melee, basically. So they wanted to shift the focus of melee from that being a necessity to everyone kind of being able to base do melee, and also they moved a lot of bonuses. They boosted a lot of melee bonuses, so everyone can kind of melee better. It's more feasible for everyone now. Beyond that, Krogans specifically got a huge boost in melee power. I mean, reasonably enough, their melee's pretty slow and super fun. I personally love headbutting stuff, but now with no investment, you can actually melee people and it will do damage. And if you invest in melee, Krogans kind of turn into like a forward-facing forehead nuke. You just hit people and they explode. And it feels good. It feels good. It feels like Krogan should. For the lesser characters, so for example as the engineer, it just kind of feels like how a Krogan should operate. You feel like you should be shotgunning and then throwing a little ball of doom and shocking somebody and then headbutting somebody. It just feels very Krogan. It feels Krogan, man. Some weapons unfortunately did not fare quite as well. The space magic punches, the biotic punch, and the Angaran knife both did not see huge increases. The specific changes weren't listed, so it's hard to compare numbers. Overall, it seems like the Angaran knife is about the same, and the magic punches are about the same. They didn't really get any buff, but they're not any worse, or at least not noticeably worse. So, it's also understandable both of those are very fast, so it's not really something I complain about, it's just it is. Overall, melee got a buff, and I am happy for it. So let's go out and punch things. Now, the next really huge thing for multiplayer is changes to automatic weapons. Ah, I know, automatic weapons. Who uses those? Hopefully everyone now. They just did a complete overhaul on the automatic weapons, and our overlords at the multiplayer department blessed us with just a huge decrease in the spread and accuracy woes that auto fire guns had previously. So again, what does this mean? It means that you don't have to do things like shoot things in the face from a meter away to hope to hit anything. It means that guns like the Cyclone and the Indra, previously not great or borderline garbage tier weapons, are actually pretty good now. So actually, specifically, the Indra I've been taking out a lot lately, and I mean, you still have to make that choice between a couple quick single fires or full auto. If you go full auto, it's not quite as accurate, but this choice is still there, but it feels so much better to use. I can pop a couple shots at a guy and it right in the dome from across the level, or I can unload on something that's like half the level away from me and still be able to hit reliably, and it's a good feeling. At first it felt a little weird because, I mean, they are automatic weapons. Like the Cyclone, being able to snipe with the Cyclone feels a little strange at first, but given that they can't have a guy with a minigun who can hit you from a couple hundred meters away, I think it's fair. So it works. Everything works now, and that's good. A lot of the automatic weapons are significantly more usable. So go and try those out. And that was all the major changes. There's some smaller changes that, of course, if you have questions about, or if you want to know how it will affect the multiplayer meta, please let me know. Most of all the changes were pretty good. I'm pretty excited. I've played a significant amount since the patch came out, and it's really good. Which reminds me one more thing. It seems like they are adding maybe weekly challenges. I hope they added challenges for extra Apex points, not Apex points, god, equipment points, whatever the points that were previously useless that are now significantly more useless because we can buy equipment. Oh yes, we can buy equipment with those points now also. Sorry, I forgot. But they're recently, as of today, as of making this video, they added a mission where you can get a rare Apex crate. I can't remember what the name is, but once you do this challenge, you get this crate, and I want to say, I've gotten competing reports, but I believe there is at least one ultra rare in the pack. On opening mine, I got 2 golds, 2 ultra rares, and a silver, and a single booster. So that's pretty significant. That is a really nice pack. I think that's more than I usually get in 1 week or 2 weeks, which is ridiculous. So hopefully that continues, and hopefully I see you on multiplayer where we can punch things and use our automatic weapons to full enjoyment. That's it. I will see you next time.